The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York Yankee baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tycho of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the co-hosts of the show are Robert Deininger and Jack Degraw. They are both present and accounted for, and they're going to give you a good show. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Robert, who's going to start things off, and take it away, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Ralph. Hey, how you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you tonight, Robert?
I'm not too bad watching the Yankees. We're 3-3. I was wondering, what did you think of, what's your take on Sonny Gray so far?
Well, a month ago, I thought he was going to turn it around, and I think, I'm kind of disappointed because, he's really, he's looked really bad, especially against the Red Sox and stuff, and he's not pitching well at the stadium. I'm not saying give up on the guy, but it's just like, I expected a lot more.
Yeah, that's Michael Kent today made it. Like he said, Yankees can't pitch Sonny Gray in a big series, and the Red Sox can't pitch David Price in a big series. I mean, like you said, Sonny Gray at home, he has the highest ERA for any Yankees pitcher with at least 12 starts, and worse than Carl Pavano.
Yeah, and I mean, just watching the game the other night, he gets the first two batters, and then he just, blows up, and...
Yeah, he doesn't have that go-to pitch that he could put hitters away with. He's more of a pitcher who pitches to contact, and he just, like you said, he gets that two strikes, and he just can't seem to put a hitter away when he's struggling.
Yeah. And in Yankee Stadium, anything you pitch to contact, any ball up in the air, could go out. So
can go out, yeah, and he gives up a lot of fly balls. But taking 2 out of 3 from Boston is not bad, and these two rookies, Gleyber Torres and Gleyber Torres and Miguel Andujar have just been incredible this year so far.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were good players, but I mean they've just stepped up with their maturity and just they're excellent all around players, and they're just going to get better. I mean, if you're a Yankee fan, you just can't help being really happy.
Yeah, Torres, he never had more than 11 home runs in the minor leagues in a season, and he's already got 15. It's incredible how he can adjust throwing in a bat.
Yeah, I remember seeing him with the Tampa Yankees, and I remember talking to a few scouts, and they were saying, we think he'll develop power when he gets to the big leagues, and they were certainly right, because down here he only had a handful of homers and hit 245. So, I mean, he's come a long way in just the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and Miguel Andujar, I think it was yesterday, they said I think tied with the most percentage of off-speed pitches per bat, meaning the pitchers aren't throwing him a lot of fastballs. I mean, he has a quick bat, I think Paul Neely would say Gary Sheffield type speed, or it might have been Alex Rodriguez who said that. But yeah, a quick bat.
Yeah, and we all know how quick A-Rod's bat was, and Sheffield. I mean, the kid's really come a long way. And since when I seen him with the Tampa Yankees, I knew he was going to be a good player, but he's really developed.
Yeah, during spring training, he looked like a star in the making. It looked like he had something, and I'm glad to see him up here. And Brandon Jury's back, and apparently he's here to stay, they said.
Yeah, I mean, I think Drury is going to be trade bait.
Yeah. I think Bird is going to start hitting. It seems like he takes 100, 150 bats to get going, and he's about reaching that point now. It'd be nice to get him hitting again for the second half.
Yeah, well, one of the encouraging things is the other night, he had a home run to the opposite field. And I think, he's starting to go the opposite way and realize, they're pitching, outside and, just start to go to left field a little more.
Yeah, he just had a single here up the middle and a nice swing. But Yankees kind of have to go out and get a starting pitcher now, don't they?
Yeah, and the interesting thing, Robert, about a month, 6 weeks ago, I didn't think maybe the Yankees and Mets would do a trade, but now, I think with the Mets going into the abyss and stuff, they might be looking, to get rid of some of those top pitchers because, they're just going nowhere, and I mean, it's just wasting those guys' talents.
And DeGrom, even though he has a couple of years of control left, he's like 30 years old, right?
I'm not really sure of the age, but I think, maybe if the Yankees can put together a nice package, they might be able to pick him up. I mean, let's just say the Yankees offered maybe Drury, Frazier, and then, you got Tyler Wade, Billy McKinney, Sheffield, Chance Adams. You could put together a package because the Mets really just don't seem to be going anywhere.
No, and they need the help. And like Yankees, they have their depth is just unreal. Their 40-man roster. Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, they signed today a 16-year-old kid from Cuba who throws 96 miles an hour.
Wow. And they also signed what's his name, Luis Severino's brother.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's a 19-year-old pitcher. They say he throws about 90 to 92, but Severino says he's better than he was at that age. So the Yankees made a couple of moves today. Well,
they got a pipeline of Venezuela and Cuba, so the talent just keeps on coming.
It does, and today and even last week, a lot of people on the call-in shows have been talking about trading Gary Sanchez. I mean, that's just insane. I mean, I would never part with Sanchez.
No. I mean, to get a catcher who can hit like that, his defense has been a problem, but you can always work on that. And when you get a guy, you get a guy who has like 14 homers, 41 RBIs. It's not even really started to have a hit yet. I mean, catchers like that don't come along that often. He can work on the defense.
Yeah, and he's had a couple of games this year where, I mean, he had a 3-run homer to win the game early in the year. He had that comeback against Seattle. He had that big 2-run homer to tie it in the bottom of the 8th. So when he hit this year, his hits were, big hits. I mean, they were important.
Yeah, he's been clutch.
And Aaron Hicks the other night, 3 home runs. He's got 14 home runs. I mean, the Yankees are just starting to pile up these home runs.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at their lineup, a lot of these guys really haven't even started to hit yet.
No.
And that's what the amazing thing is. I mean, they're on pace to win 108 games, and a lot of these guys haven't even hit their stride yet.
And Giancarlo Stanton, he's got 19 homers and 46 RBIs, but he's not far off the pace he was last year. He had a huge second half. And if he can give the Yankees even close to what he did last season in the second half, I mean, my God. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting, the race between the Yankees and the Red Sox. And the thing is, you want to win your division because you don't want to have 106 wins and then you could lose in the wild card game. So
yeah,
it's going to be it's going to be a race, a race to the finish because you could have 106 wins and you could face Seattle in the wild card game and King Felix could shut you out and your season's done.
And Boston, even though they have the highest payroll in baseball, their GM said that's not a concern heading into the trade deadline. They're willing to eat more money, to improve their team. So Yankees might be forced into a move at the trade deadline just to keep pace with Boston.
Yeah. Well, I think you might see a pitcher or two become. I think you'll definitely see a pitcher or two come to the Yankees' way.
Yeah, they're talking a lot about Happ from the Blue Jays, J.A. Happ, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Lefty.
Well, he's had some good years and stuff like that, but I'd like to see maybe the guy from the Tigers or even go after DeGrom.
Yeah, the guy from the Tigers, Fulmer, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Yankees had scouts at his last start, so they're definitely keeping an eye on him. But yeah, Boston and the Yankees, it's going to come down to, I think, the last week in September. I mean, these teams are just going to go at it until the end of the year.
Yeah, it's gonna keep going back and forth and stuff. And there's a lot of bad teams in the American League this year. So I think pretty much all these other teams, they're going to have to start trading guys and making moves if they want to improve. So maybe the Yankees and the Red Sox can jump in there and steal somebody.
Yeah. And Tommy Canale, do you know how he's doing down in the minors? Has he improved a little bit?
Yeah, he's been striking out guys and stuff like that. So it's just a matter of time before you'll see him back up here. And I think another thing is if they need him, you might see Chance Adams up here, and they might wind up putting him in the bullpen.
How's he look so far? 'Cause I was high on him coming into spring training.
Well, he's struggled a little bit and stuff, but they want to make him a starting pitcher. That was the thing is because he was a reliever in college. I think if he was a reliever, he could have come up last year. But even though he had a big year last year, I think it just says he don't have that third or fourth pitch that they have the confidence for him to be a starter. But Justice Sheffield is doing really well.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, the Yankees, he's their number one pitching prospect, right?
Yeah. And, it was Chance Adams. So, you never know.
And it's like the Yankees bullpen. Jonathan Holder this year, he's just been unbelievable. I mean, he's come out of nowhere, really. I mean, Boone's been relying on him more and more as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen struggled a little bit early, but now they're really coming on. Betances is coming on, and so.
Yeah. He looks like, his regular all-star self, which is great for the Yankees.
The only thing concerned about me about Betances is, you get against a team that can run. So that could come into play at some point.
Yeah. And the Mets, as a Yankee fan, I do feel bad for the Mets. They are just, I think, had one of their worst months in their history.
Yeah, I think they were 5-21. I mean, they started out 11-1.
Yeah.
And, I feel sorry. I've never been a Met fan either, but, they have so many great fans in New York. And, the Yankees haven't had a losing season since 1992. And during that time, the Mets have had 11 winning seasons and 14 losing seasons, and they just can't, turn it around.
They might be. I'd like to see Tim Tebow up at the end of the year, but that's just me. And a lot of people don't think he deserved an all-star selection down at the Double-A, but he's actually gotten better down there, I've heard. Yeah. Well, I think, you don't play in the NFL. You don't win the Heisman Trophy, and you're not able to hit, even hit a baseball if you don't have great talent. So at some point, I think we'll see him up with the Mets, and I hope he does well. Yeah, the one scout said he still doesn't see the changeup coming, and he still has problems with the soft stuff outside and the hard stuff in, but he's now become a tougher out, they said. And he's a completely different player than he was just a year ago. Well, that's probably proven it. Yeah, I mean, he didn't play baseball for 12 or 13 years, so I think it's pretty amazing what he's been able to accomplish so far. It's like one of the managers down there said, and he's doing better than some of the guys that have been down in Double-A for 5, 6, 7 years. So it really is remarkable what he's been able to do. I don't think you can say, this is a joke. He's just too good of an athlete. Is there anything that you want to touch on that we didn't get to? You want to talk some Don Mattingly or something? Yeah, Don I still can't get over how his back just hurt his career. I mean, he stuck around. He was such a good player, and that back went on him. I mean, I've never seen anyone have a 4-year stretch like he did from 84 to 88. It was just incredible. Especially as a kid growing up.
Yeah, at one point, I mean, look at the team they had. You know, they had Ricky Henderson, they had Winfield, they had Mattingly, they had Randolph. You know, the teams of the 80s were actually loaded. But, you know, they didn't have the wild card then, and Toronto was terrific. But, I mean, Mattingly, after he hurt his back, he just couldn't, you know, he didn't have the torque in his swing anymore and just couldn't drive the ball out of the park. He took some shots in his back, and for 2 years he averaged like 17 home runs, but he was just never the player that he was before.
No. That's like he said, he found a little hitch in his swing a month or two prior to them making the wild card. And he said he wished he found that a couple of years earlier. But it was nice to see him bat .417 in the postseason with the home run and 7 RBIs, which was tied for the team lead with Paul O'Neill. And it was nice to see that he could step up and play in that kind of stage. Really was a great postseason.
Yeah, I was lucky to be at one of those. Well, I was lucky to be at the opening game, against the Mariners.
Yeah, I went to game one too.
Yeah, I sat in left field, and Ruben Sierra had the big home run, and Mattingly had a homer. And
yeah, I was in left field too on the second level.
Well, I was down at the lower level, and when Sierra hit the home run, somebody dropped the beer down. So was that you, Robert?
No, it wasn't me. But, oh, my God. I've never seen a stadium like that, 55,000 plus. I mean, it was rocking, especially when Mattingly came up and the Donnie Baseball chants came out. I mean, that was an all-time high for me to see him in the postseason, especially the first.
It was nice to see him finally get there and stuff. And it, you know, it makes you think, like, if he'd have played a couple more years, you know, Tino wouldn't have come to the Yankees. And, you know, think of the team Seattle would have had if they could have signed these guys. I mean, the Mariners were loaded.
Yeah, I mean, Buhner, Griffey, Tino, Edgar Martinez, who killed the Yankees every time.
Yeah, Edgar swung a mean bat that year. I mean, he was hitting pitches. I mean, they were making good pitches against him, and he was just hitting the ball all over. And that's the year, like, Mariano really stepped up in the playoffs.
Yeah. That's where he kind of made his name, really, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah. John Letland was a closer. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, and they had to bring in Jack McDowell.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember about that is in Game 5, which the Yankees wound up losing, they took a 4-2 lead, and Mattingly had a big hit.
Yeah.
And they had the bases loaded, and Mike Stanley was up. And Mike Stanley hit about 4 or 5 grand slams that year. And he had a 3-0 pitch. It was right down the middle, and he fouled it back. And that's the one pitch, you know, that could have changed that series and stuff like that. But I mean, it was
Mike Stanley. Yeah, he came through with some big hits that year.
Yeah, he had a lot. I went to one game. He hit 3 homers against Cleveland, and you know, he played really well for the Yankees and stuff. But that was a heartbreaking series to lose.
Oh yeah, especially in that fashion. Oh man, you know, Mattingly had that. I think the go-ahead run knocked in the go-ahead run. I think, and Bernie fouled with the double.
Yeah,
Mattingly. Yeah. Griffey. Oh man, but Mattingly still to this day, I think he holds the Yankees single season hit record and doubled in a season. Back in '85, I think he set the record.
Yeah, I mean him and Winfield went at, you know, the batting race, and so they had some really good teams, but they didn't have the wild card back then.
No, they scored the most runs of any team in the '80s, and really nothing to show for it, except trading away a lot of top prospects.
Well, I mean, Robert, if you look at their roster in the '80s and look at the Yankee roster from like '95 to 2000, you know, the team that won all the World Series, you know, their lineup was as good as the team that won all the World Series. They just didn't have, you know, the pitching.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, that's about it, Robert.
The Yankees, but they got the Braves right now and then the Blue Jays?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. This should be a good week. All-Star break's coming up soon. It'd be nice to finish on a high note.
Well, it's been a great first half. I mean, everything's pretty much went well for him. I mean, the expectations were high, but I don't think anybody could realize, that it was going to be as good as it's turned out.
Yeah, I mean, 54 and 27. I mean, start the season, I didn't think they'd be this good, and it's been a nice surprise. Just Boston just doesn't lose, so it's going to be fun all the way to September. Yeah,
the Yankees and the Red Sox, they're like the same team. They just battle and keep coming at you, and it's a great rivalry, and Boston's a great team, so it's anything the Yankees get, they're going to have to earn.
Yeah. Thanks, Jack. It's been fun.
Well, thank you, Robert. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime.
You take care.
Okay, you too, Jack. Good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody.